Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Just going to wait a little few moments while people come on into the live. Whilst we're waiting, I'm just going to introduce myself. My name is Suf, here at the VVH, and we're kicking off Pride Month this month. It is June 4th, and I'm here joined by the lovely Caroline Gillwood, our head of EDI, which stands for Equality, Diversity and Inclusion, here at the Virtual Village Hall and also the wider RVS. And we're here to just discuss about Pride. I'm going to ask Caroline a few questions about her experience of Pride and her involvements and what we can do to, involve ourselves. And also this will be an opportunity just to kind of find out a little bit more about what we've got up to this month. And maybe you'll want to interact in the comments and maybe ask a couple of questions or just say hello. That'll be great. So I think we're just gonna maybe get started. Caroline, I'm just gonna hand this over to you and let yourself introduce yourself to our lovely viewers.
Yeah, thank you so much, Soph. And hello, everybody. What an absolute privilege to be here. And thank you for asking me to kick off Pride Month here at Royal Voluntary Service, and in particular, talking a little bit about Virtual Village Hall and some of the amazing events that you've put on this year. And I just wanted to quickly say my pronouns are she, her, and I've been working at RVS for a couple of years.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Caroline. And I would just like to add that my pronouns are he, him. Okay, so Caroline, I just want to ask you first really about just kind of tell us a little bit about, the history and significance of Pride Month and what Pride Month really means to you and how that's evolved over the years.
Yeah, thank you so much. I thought it was a great way to just introduce Pride and to give our viewers a bit more information about Pride. I'm sure in all of our communities across the UK, you're seeing Pride events popping up and lots of rainbow flags everywhere. And I just thought it'd be really good to just talk a bit about the history. So the first Pride event was held in New York in 1972. And it was actually a commemoration of the 1969 Stonewall Uprising in New York City. So in the 60s, the police and public officials in America sought to make it impossible for LGBTQ plus people to live their lives free from violence and harm. So the police regularly raided bars and other community spaces where LGBTQ plus people gathered. And on the 28th of June in 1969, LGBTQ plus people who were at the Stonewall Inn in New York said enough is enough. And what started as actually a peaceful protest turned into a riot when police responded with force, arresting, injuring and hospitalizing many community members who had been peacefully protesting against the discrimination that they faced. And these courageous acts of protest from LGBTQ plus people, including people of colour who were already facing racism, people like Stormy DeLavery, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, catalysed a national movement of LGBTQ plus leaders fighting for the right to live their most authentic lives and whose efforts really have allowed me to be able to do the same. And in the LGBTQ plus community, we consider this to be the start of the civil rights movement for LGBTQ plus people. And I wouldn't be who I am without those LGBTQ plus activists who came before me, because they imagined a world that we didn't yet live in, and their vision for me made the unthinkable real. And though recent Pride celebrations can look more like parties, it's really important that we remember that, and that Stonewall was an act of direct resistance against discrimination and against police violence that sadly many LGBTQ plus people across the world still face today. And for me, it's because of the bravery of those people and many others over the years that today here in the UK we have laws that protect us from being discriminated against at work, in our communities. We have the right to marry and have our relationships and identities recognised in our education system. And I'm sure that many will agree with me that this is definitely something to celebrate. And Pride Month is a great way to do this, but also to recognise that we still have got work to do to make sure that we don't lose those hard-fought protections and ensure that these are shared by LGBTQ plus people around the world. But also we must work to ensure that the next generation of people don't have to fight those same struggles for rights and liberations that that began all the way back in Stonewall in 1969.
Thank you so much for that amazing insight. And I think it was really nice just to hear, just echoing what you said about all the work and that, all the progress that we've made so far, but yet there's so much yet to do. Standing in solidarity and celebrating that is really, really important. And that leads me on, I guess, to my next question, which is your own involvement in your own Pride up in Portobello. So, I just would love for you to tell us a little bit more about that, where the idea came from, what you're up to this year, and that'll be really great to hear.
Oh, thank you. And it's great to have a platform to promote our Portobello Pride. So for those of you who don't know, Portobello is a little suburb, if you like, in Edinburgh. And about 3 years ago, it was actually during lockdown, when there was no public events happening, actually. And we recognised that there were people, LGBT people and Q+ people in our community that were really isolated. There was no visibility. There was nothing going on for those people. There were things happening online, but some of them weren't accessible to people because not everybody has the privilege of having a laptop or having good internet connection. And, so there was a lot of isolation. So there was a small group of us who came together and we started distributing flags to local businesses that they could put in their shops, and so that there was a visible representation that Portobello as a community was a welcoming and safe place for the LGBTQ+ community. Because another thing that had been happening at the time, we have a wonderful cafe here on our high street that flies the flag all year round, not just for Pride Month, and actually it'd been burnt a couple of times. So we saw this as a bit of a homophobic act, really, and we just wanted other LGBTQ+ people to know that this was a safe place and it was a welcoming place. So that was year one. And then the following year, we set up a range of events when we were able to do so. So we had things like a dog walk along our local promenade because we're by the sea. We had a range of events in our library. We had panel events talking about a range of different LGBTQ+ issues. And then we also had our infamous Portobello Ball, our Porty Pride Ball, where we had over 300 people attend. And it was a great space for the LGBTQ+ community to come together, have some fun, have a sense of community and be able to enjoy, but also remembering that Pride was a protest. And so we also use our events at the library to tackle some really challenging issues around poverty, around intersectionality, where you've got people with disabilities as well as LGBTQ+ people. And this year it's bigger and better. We were fortunate enough to get some community funding, the community fund from the big lottery. And this year we've been able to do things like pay our volunteers, to be able to pay our performers, and to be able to have some really good quality merchandise and really just promote LGBTQ+ inclusion across Portobello, and also welcoming and encouraging people all over Edinburgh and Scotland to come and join us over that weekend. So that's going to be the weekend of the 28th of June this year. I think somebody might be able to put a link to the Porty Pride website in there. So go along and have a look and see what a small group of 8 people are able to do in their local community to really bring LGBTQ+ inclusion to life.
That's fantastic, Caroline. Thank you so much for letting us know about that. And like Caroline said, if you are interested, if you are nearby at the end of the month up in Portobello, feel free to click the link below. Even if you're not, it'll be great if you can show some support and have a little look at what's going on. It's really important to shed light on these small community events, especially around times like Pride Month. And it's these kind of events that are, very important to the community and also just to the wider communities in terms of celebrating and showing solidarity for the LGBTQ+ community. So thank you, Caroline, for that. Bringing us on to our next set of questions is more just about what we've heard about what you're getting involved with, Caroline. It'll be great for us to hear of what you think would be good for individuals to get involved in, and also businesses and workplaces during Pride Month and also just throughout the year.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I'm glad that you said throughout the year. So allyship is something that we're all capable of doing. not just for the LGBTQ plus community, but anyone who faces discrimination and marginalisation and needs a bit of support. But it's Pride Month, so let's talk about LGBTQ plus allyship. So like you've already recognised, allyship isn't just for Pride Month, but it's definitely a good place to start thinking about how we can all be allies to the LGBTQ plus community. It's important to remember that each of those letters stand for a specific community who all face unique challenges. So for me as a lesbian, it's important that I show allyship to others within my community. So for example, during the HIV and AIDS pandemic in the early 90s, me and many other lesbians put our arms around gay men who were affected by HIV and AIDS, campaigning and caring for those who sadly lost their lives at that time. And today, bringing it back up to date, I guess, trans people are discriminated against in many areas of their lives. And so for me, it's important that I stand up to be a trans ally and fight for their rights to be seen and to challenge transphobia, for example, when I hear or I see it. So being here and learning about the roots of Pride and engaging in this conversation is a brilliant way to start educating yourself and learning a little bit more about LGBTQ plus inclusion. But also there's lots of reading material and films that can help you expand your knowledge of LGBTQ plus people's experiences. There's podcasts, there's documentaries, there's books written by LGBTQ plus authors that really bring to life the experiences that they have of love, of loss, of challenges, but also the celebrations within their lives. And I know from my own experience of, with other topics, that absorbing the right documentary or book at the right time can really be life-changing. It's also important that we try and educate our next generation, so including books on your children or grandchildren's bookshelf, for example, that share stories of same-sex families, or all the way through to young adult books that include diverse characters. That's really important that we do that as well. The other thing that we can all do is be conscious of our language. And I know that it's an ever-changing landscape around language, particularly in the LGBTQ plus community. And it's okay to make mistakes, but also it's important to try not to make assumptions about people's gender or the gender of their partner, for example. So for example, for me, I often get asked what my husband's name is when I say that I'm married, and I have to correct people and say, actually, I have a wife, not a partner. And so when a friend of mine, for example, came out as non-binary, I practiced their pronouns in private, but even then I still slipped up occasionally. So if you do make a mistake, don't make a big thing of it, just apologize and keep that conversation going. But do try and check your language and educate yourself. There's lots of resources online where you can find out about inclusive language. I'll tell you a little bit more about an event that Virtual Village Hall's got going on this month that might be able to help with that. And also, I think, finally, the most important thing is if you hear somebody making an inappropriate comment, maybe a homophobic joke, for example, try and call it out if you feel safe to do so. Let them know that you're not okay with that kind of language or that type of humour, and remind them that that kind of comment can be really hurtful to others. So they're just a few top tips. In the workplace, we're protected by laws, we're protected by employment laws, and it's really important that we make sure that policies and procedures are inclusive of LGBTQ plus communities. Also, organisations can make sure that things like their recruitment practices are inclusive, and make sure that they've got really robust bullying and harassment policies to make sure that LGBTQ plus identities are included in them, so that when we're at work, we can be safe to be our authentic selves, but also that we know that there are processes and procedures to help if somebody isn't adhering to those policies and their impact on our ability to do our job, and also to enable stopping us from being our authentic selves in the workplace. That's really important as well. You'll see lots of organisations going along to Prides, for example. They may sponsor Prides, or they may have a stall at a local Pride festival, for example. And that's another way for organisations to be able to show their solidarity with the LGBTQ plus community. There are other things that organisations can do. So, for example, at RVS, we support people to put their pronouns in their signature so that people who perhaps have pronouns that are different to he or she, that they know that they're welcome and that their identity is acknowledged and seen within the organisation and within the workplace.
Thank you so much, Caroline. That was really, really insightful. Just more of an off the cuff question. Do you have like maybe one or maybe two books that are that you can think of at the top of your head that people might think to read, that you might think would be an enjoyable read? I think while you think, I could probably recommend a couple of programs that I think that would be great to maybe if you wanted to educate yourself a little bit more on LGBT history. For me, my recommendations would be It's a Sin, which is on BBC. That kind of covers the history of young people in the 80s during the epidemic, and kind of this not only the celebration but also the struggle, and it was a very raw kind of depiction of what was going on back then. For someone like me who didn't grow up back then, I'm only 27, so I didn't even see the 80s. It was a really important piece, I think, to educate yourself on. I'm not so much of a reader because I struggle to read, so watching things is probably a little bit better for me. But I don't know if you had anything to recommend for books-wise, Caroline.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, staying on the watch theme, because I love a bit of TV and films, and a film that will always stick with me is a film called Pride. And it's the story of LGBT people. There wasn't necessarily the Q and the plus in that era, but it's the story of lesbians and gays supporting the miners. And it's a story of an LGBT, a lesbian and gay group who actually went and supported the miners in Wales during the miners' strikes. And it's such a powerful story about these two very, very separate communities that didn't know anything about each other, but came together in solidarity because they could see that there was an issue and that they needed support. And it was these lesbian and gays who went to Wales and campaigned, fundraised and supported to help the miners during that time of strike. And that's such a powerful, heartwarming story, actually. So that's another one that's a really good one to watch. In terms of reading, I can only talk about things that I love. And there's a really fantastic story that stuck with me, and it's by an author called Jackie Kay. And Jackie Kay is a Black Scottish queer woman. And the story Trumpet is about a jazz musician who lives their life as a man who actually was born a woman. But they live their life as a man. And it's a really powerful story of love and about identity, and actually how someone can live their life in secret, if you like. But I won't give away the end of the story, but it's a really powerful read, and it is about love and family and identity, and it's really, really powerful. Another author that does some fantastic LGBTQ plus stories is Sarah Walters, who writes some fabulous historical historical novels about LGBTQ plus people. And Tipping the Velvet became a TV series, for example, but there's many others that Sarah Walters has written, which are great for folk to get their teeth into a bit of LGBTQ plus content. But have a look online and do try and read stories that are by LGBTQ plus people. Val McDermid, if you like a good murder, she's she's a lesbian author, and she's written some fantastic stories. So Val McDermid's another one to have a look at. Her stories aren't necessarily about LGBTQ plus experiences, but by buying her books or, reading her books, then you're supporting a queer artist, actually. So that's just as important, I guess, even though they don't necessarily talk about LGBT experiences.
Thank you so much, Caroline. That was great. That was perfect. I might have to get back into reading. Okay, well, just before we round this off, we're gonna talk a little bit about what's happening this month. Got so many exciting events, and we're just gonna highlight a few now. Starting, well, I'll hand over to you, Caroline, because I know you referenced just one that we were about to discuss about intersectionality and language.
Yeah, that was just a teaser. So if
Was
that
it?
was, but yeah, so you've got so many fantastic events happening. So the first one we're kicking off on the 11th of June with listening books, and we've done some work, haven't we, with listening books before at VVH, and so we're continuing that partnership, and we're going to be showcasing an author Q&A with our LR Lamb, and they're an award-winning author, best-selling author, and the book is called Dragonfall.
Yeah.
Dragonfall. Thank you so much. I couldn't remember the exact title. Forgive me, but yeah, Dragonfall. And so come along to the listening book event and hear a little bit more about LR Lamb, their life and their experiences. Be fantastic. Then we move on, and we're going to be introducing the Terence Higgins Memorial Quilt. So for those of you who don't know about the Memorial Quilt, it was actually part of a movement during the HIV and AIDS era, where people stitched quilt squares together as memorials to the people that they loved and lost, and as a living legacy for those people who died during the HIV and AIDS epidemic. And Mark Francis and Boys Sew Too are going to be coming along and talking a bit about the Memorial Quilt, but also talking a little bit more about Boys Sew Too and who they are and how they're promoting sewing for men across the UK. So that's a great one to come along. Really great to get the Memorial Quilt showcased, actually. So do come along and hear a bit more about that. And then on the 18th of June, we've got neurodiversity in the LGBTQ plus community with Dr. Tony Lloyd, who's a fantastic presenter. He's the CEO of the ADHD Foundation, which is a neurodiversity charity. So if you're interested in neurodiversity and learning a little bit within the LGBTQ plus community, then do come along. And then we've then got an LGBTQ plus artist who's going to be coming along, Olivia Hardman, and that's on the 24th of June. And she's going to be showing folk how to make clay pinch pots, and that's over 2 parts. So in the first part, you'll be making that pot, and then in the second part, you'll be learning how to decorate that pot. And I think Olivia uses air-dried clay, so this is definitely something that you can do at home. And pottery is something that's close to my own heart, so I'll definitely be dialing into that one and hearing a little bit more about Olivia's skills and how we can all get involved. And then as we move into the end of the month, on the 28th of June, we've got the absolute privilege of hearing from Laila El-Mouti again, who's the Equity and Wellbeing Educator from LEM Education. And she's going to be doing a session on intersectionality, where we'll learn a little bit more about we're not one-dimensional beings, and that we have more than one identity. So you can be LGBTQ plus, for example. You can also live with a disability. You can also be a person of colour. And she's going to be talking about intersectionality and also the deconstructing of power and privilege. And this is language that's becoming far more well heard and seen, and great opportunity to learn a little bit more about that and hear from Laila on these topics. That's it. But that's not all. That's all we can talk about today, but we've got some other events coming online. So definitely keep an eye out for those, and you'll be able to find out more about them on our platforms and our website.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Caroline. And for everyone who's watching, if you are interested in any of these events, you can just have a look in the comments. We have details and links for everything there. I think we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much, Caroline. That was brilliant. Everyone's watching, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, we both of us here just want to wish you all a very happy Pride Month. Please come to our events and please say hello. Let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Just get involved, and we both of us want to wish you a very happy Pride Month. I want to personally obviously thank Caroline for being here, and yeah, I guess we'll see you all on the next one. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Soph, and thank you so much to the Virtual Village Hall and all our viewers. Happy Pride Month. Take care. Join our events.